Hello and welcome to Prime Property. I'm Nayanthara Rai and this is what we have on the show today. It's been a tumultuous few years for home buyers in Noida thanks to farmer agitation as well as the NGT ban. Consumers now allege builders are forcing them to sign NOCs for completion certificates and also claim extra demands are being raised for possession. We get your legal perspective. What are consumers' legal options? Should you move into these apartments on the basis of a partial occupancy certificate? Down south in Chennai, builders are resorting to the last resort, hefty discounts to bring buyers back into the market. Those that had invested in Noida's property market have had a tumultuous ride. Lakhs of home buyers, though, breathed a sigh of relief when the Supreme Court this May had upheld land acquisition by local authorities between 2006 and 2009 in Noida and Greater Noida and had ruled against farmers' demand of wanting their land back. Besides this, the Supreme Court instructed the Noida and Greater Noida authorities to raise the compensation to farmers by 64.7% and give them 10% of developed land. The higher compensation works out to be around 1,400 rupees a square yard or almost 68 lakh rupees an acre. After years of uncertainty, these buyers are now once again in a fix. They claim builders are allegedly forcing them to sign NOCs for completion certificates and unilaterally raising an extra demand for possession. This weekend, the buyers are getting together to protest, sign a campaign that they plan to send to the Prime Minister's office. Here's the other big case from Noida. In mid-August of this year, 60,000 home buyers in Noida thought they would soon get their dream home when the Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar lifted a 2-year-long ban of the National Green Tribunal or the NGT. These home buyers had feared they had lost their investments. Construction activity had come to a grinding halt when the NGT ruled a 10-kilometer radius around the Okla Bird Sanctuary as an eco-sensitive zone. The Green Tribunal had banned authorities from giving completion certificates, but that ban has now been lifted. Yet, there is little change on ground in the last 45 days. You see these kind of buildings bearing a deserted look as you drive down Noida. Most of these projects are ready to move in, like the Lotus Boulevard, Lotus Panache, with almost 8,000 apartments taken together between these two projects, or the Sunworld Vanalika with 700 flats, or the Pratik Edifice with 426 units. Then you also see these kind of buildings, these structures that stand out as they're all ready for the final stage of completion before they're handing over to customers. But they seem abandoned. Despite closure from the centre, builders have not got completion certificates. Prime Property learns this is on the back of slow bureaucratic procedures, but also because builders have not cleared their dues with the Noida and Greater Noida authorities. I tried to find out more.
Only about 12 to 15 projects have been given phase-wise completion certificate till now, after the notification of NGT was announced, because these projects were already complete in all respect and were just awaiting that particular approval. However, there are maybe about 35 to 40 projects which have already applied to Noida Authority for availing completion certificate or occupation certificate, but there's a procedure, and that procedure itself takes 5 to 6 months time, because when we apply for completion, we have to apply for a large number of NOCs which come from various authorities like fire, electricity department, airport authority, consent to establish, which is the State Pollution Control Board, and a lot of these NOCs you can apply for only after you have applied for completion certificate.
Okay, so that's the bureaucratic procedures that have to be followed. What we also understand is the reason builders are not applying for completion certificates and the reason they will not get it right now also is because they owe the Noida and Greater Noida Authority money. They have not cleared their dues. How do you react to that?
Well, that could be true for some of the projects, because when the plots are allotted or auctioned by Noida, they carry a deferred payment plan program. mostly, the payments are to be paid in about a 10-year time period from the date of the allotment. So there could be projects where the developers have paid maybe 60%, 80%, 90% and have not paid the final installments, etc., which might be in the progress, because as I said earlier, that the financial cycle also gets disrupted very badly when the work is to be stopped or halted abruptly. Buyer confidence goes down, people stop paying installments, people stop buying. So it takes a time, it takes some time for the cash flow cycle to revive.
Mr. Modi, for whatever reason the builders have not cleared their dues, the fact remains the buyer is going to remain stuck. All the builders have been saying their projects are ready to be handed over, but they have not cleared their dues with the state government, with the Noida and Greater Noida Authority. So obviously they're not going to get the completion certificate. What is the buyer supposed to do? Most of these buyers have paid 90 to 95%.
There are procedural issues, there are issues related to how much interest is to be paid to the authority, on what basis is being calculated, because there were certain deferments because of judicial pronouncements. So those things take some time to sort out. You know, these are not very simple issues, they are complex issues with multi-party agencies involved in it. But as CREDAI, I can assure that to the buyers in Noida that the developers are trying their level best, and so is the authority, to be able to resolve the procedural issues at the earliest.
We also understand that builders are telling consumers move in, they're offering partial occupancy certificates. My question to you is, isn't this going to get really messy? Isn't this going to then become the Campa Cola case of North India?
No, Campa Cola is a very different example altogether. I think it will be unfair for us to bring a Campa Cola example in a Noida kind of a scenario, because Campa Cola was all about unauthorized or illegal construction to some extent, whereas in Noida, it's not even possible to do any of that. That's really not the issue at all anywhere. When you talk about partial completion, that's a very set procedure. When you have projects spanning on 10 acre to 25 or 50 acre, the entire lot is not sold in one go and is neither committed to be delivered in one go. They are delivered in phases. So all authorities allow you the procedure of obtaining tower-wise or phase-wise completion, and that's what the developers have applied for.
But why should buyers take umbrage under partial occupancy certificates?
See, the occupation certificate or completion certificate, both are provided by the development authority, and they are issued only when the development authority satisfies itself that the project has been completed in all the respects.
Well, that's the builder side of the story. On the other side, we're going to get your legal perspective. Should you take the risk of moving into a flat with only a partial occupancy certificate? Stay tuned, you're watching Prime Property.